Most people with diabetes focus only on cutting sugar and carbs, but they still struggle with high blood sugar because they're missing something critical. The real problem for many diabetics isn't sugar itself, it's insulin resistance, when your cells stop responding properly to insulin. And without fixing that, blood sugar stays high no matter what you eat. What most people don't realize is that insulin resistance is strongly linked to vitamin deficiencies. Certain vitamins play a direct role in how insulin works, how glucose enters your cells, and how efficiently your body uses sugar for energy. When these vitamins are low, insulin can't do its job, glucose builds up in the bloodstream, and diabetes slowly gets worse over time. In this video, I'm going to break down the top 3 vitamins every diabetic must take to improve insulin sensitivity naturally. You'll learn how each vitamin works inside the body, what happens when you're deficient, how it affects blood sugar and HbA1c, and how to use these vitamins correctly to support long-term glucose control. By the end of this video, you'll understand why fixing insulin resistance is the real key to reversing diabetes, and how these 3 vitamins can help your body respond to insulin again, naturally and safely. To understand why vitamins matter so much for diabetics, we first need to understand what actually keeps blood sugar high. For most people with type 2 diabetes, the core problem is not a lack of insulin. The real issue is insulin resistance, a condition where your cells stop responding properly to insulin's signal. Insulin's role is straightforward. After you eat, insulin tells your muscle, liver, and fat cells to open up and pull glucose out of the bloodstream so it can be used for energy. In insulin resistance, that message becomes weak and distorted. The cells stop responding, glucose stays in the blood, and blood sugar levels rise. To compensate, the pancreas releases more insulin in an attempt to overpower this resistance. This is why many diabetics have high insulin levels and high blood sugar at the same time. The insulin is present, but it's not effective. Over time, the pancreas becomes overworked, insulin signaling continues to decline, and blood sugar control worsens. This is also why diabetes often progresses slowly, even in people who reduce sugar and carbohydrates. Insulin resistance develops over years, not days. Chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, poor mitochondrial function, excess fat storage, and nutrient depletion all contribute. One of the most overlooked drivers of this process is vitamin deficiency. Vitamins are required for hundreds of enzymatic reactions, including those that control insulin signaling and glucose metabolism. At the cellular level, insulin works by binding to receptors on the cell surface and triggering a signaling cascade that allows glucose transporters to move sugar into the cell. Several vitamins are required to maintain receptor sensitivity, enzyme activation, and energy production inside the cell. When these vitamins are low, insulin receptors become less responsive, signaling weakens, and glucose transport slows down. This leads to persistent high blood sugar even when insulin is present. Over time, insulin receptors can become damaged or downregulated, making resistance even worse. This is one reason medications often lose effectiveness. They may increase insulin levels, but they do not repair the cellular machinery required for insulin to work properly. Common symptoms of insulin resistance include chronic fatigue, strong carbohydrate cravings, weight gain around the abdomen, difficulty losing fat, brain fog, and frequent blood sugar crashes. Many diabetics also experience worsening cholesterol levels, elevated blood pressure, and poor circulation. These problems are often treated separately, but they all stem from impaired insulin action at the cellular level. Scientific research consistently shows that correcting key vitamin deficiencies can significantly improve insulin sensitivity. Restoring proper vitamin levels helps reduce inflammation and improve mitochondrial energy production, strengthen insulin receptor signaling, and enhance glucose uptake. In some studies, fasting blood sugar and HbA1c improve within weeks because the underlying biochemical pathways are being restored. Modern diets make this problem worse. Processed foods are low in micronutrients. Soil depletion has reduced vitamin content in whole foods. And diabetics lose more vitamins through increased urination and metabolic stress. This creates a vicious cycle where insulin resistance increases nutrient loss, and nutrient loss further worsens insulin resistance. This is why simply cutting sugar is often not enough. Diet changes can reduce glucose intake, but if the vitamins required for insulin signaling are missing, blood sugar regulation remains unstable. To truly reverse insulin resistance, the body needs the nutrients that allow insulin to function properly again. In the next sections, we'll break down the three most important vitamins that directly support insulin sensitivity, explain how each one works inside the body, and show how diabetics can use them safely to restore glucose control and improve long-term metabolic health. Vitamin D plays a foundational role in insulin sensitivity, yet it is one of the most commonly overlooked deficiencies in people with diabetes. While most people associate vitamin D with bone strength, its influence on blood sugar control runs much deeper. Vitamin D directly affects how insulin functions, how cells respond to glucose, and how efficiently the pancreas produces insulin. Vitamin D works through specialized receptors that exist on muscle cells, fat cells, and insulin-producing beta cells in the pancreas. These receptors help regulate how cells interpret insulin signal. When vitamin D levels are low, insulin signaling becomes weaker and less efficient. As a result, glucose has a harder time entering cells and remains circulating in the bloodstream. This leads to a situation where blood sugar stays elevated even though insulin is present. In response, the pancreas releases more insulin to compensate. Over time, this constant overproduction places significant strain on the pancreas and worsens insulin resistance. Many diabetics live in this state for years without realizing vitamin D deficiency is contributing to the problem. Vitamin D also plays a major role in controlling chronic inflammation. Inflammation interferes with insulin signaling pathways inside the cell, making insulin's message harder to transmit. Low vitamin D levels are associated with higher levels of inflammatory markers, which further disrupt glucose regulation and worsen insulin resistance. By reducing inflammation, vitamin D helps restore clearer insulin signaling. Another critical function of vitamin D is protecting pancreatic beta cells. These cells are responsible for producing insulin, and they are highly sensitive to metabolic stress. Chronic insulin resistance forces beta cells to work harder, increasing oxidative damage and accelerating cellular fatigue. Vitamin D helps reduce this stress, supports beta cell survival, and improves insulin secretion efficiency over time. Vitamin D deficiency is extremely common in people with diabetes. Limited sun exposure, aging, higher body fat levels, and poor absorption all contribute. Vitamin D is fat-soluble and often becomes trapped in fat tissue, reducing its availability for metabolic processes. This means someone can consume vitamin D but still remain functionally deficient at the cellular level. Low vitamin D levels are associated with higher fasting blood sugar, increased post-meal spikes, and poorer HbA1c outcomes. Multiple clinical studies show that correcting vitamin D deficiency improves insulin sensitivity and glucose control, particularly in people with established insulin resistance. Improvements often occur gradually over several weeks, but are consistent and measurable. Vitamin D also supports muscle glucose uptake. Muscle tissue is one of the primary sites where glucose is cleared from the bloodstream. When muscle cells respond better to insulin, they absorb more glucose after meals, helping stabilize overall blood sugar levels throughout the day. This makes daily glucose management more predictable and less volatile. What makes vitamin D especially important is that it sets the stage for other interventions to work. Diet changes, exercise, and even medications depend on proper insulin signaling. Without adequate vitamin D, these strategies often produce weaker or inconsistent results because the underlying cellular response remains impaired. Addressing vitamin D deficiency does not instantly reverse diabetes, but it removes a major barrier to improvement. It allows insulin to function more effectively, reduces inflammation, protects pancreatic cells, and supports more stable glucose regulation. For many diabetics, restoring vitamin D levels is one of the most important first steps toward reversing insulin resistance. In the next section, we'll move on to the second essential vitamin that works alongside vitamin D to further strengthen insulin signaling, reduce oxidative stress, and support long-term blood sugar stability. Vitamin B12 is one of the most important yet most commonly overlooked vitamins for diabetics. While it is often discussed in relation to nerve health or fatigue, its role in insulin resistance and blood sugar stability goes much deeper. For people with diabetes, low B12 levels can quietly worsen glucose control, energy levels, and long-term metabolic health. Vitamin B12 is essential for proper nerve signaling throughout the body. Insulin sensitivity depends not only on hormones, but also on efficient communication between nerves, muscles, and metabolic tissues. When B12 levels are low, this communication becomes slower and less precise. As a result, cells respond less efficiently to insulin signal, and glucose uptake becomes impaired. Another critical role of vitamin B12 is its involvement in cellular energy production. Inside each cell, glucose must be converted into usable energy through a series of metabolic reactions. Vitamin B12 is required for these reactions to function properly. When B12 is deficient, cells struggle to use glucose efficiently, causing sugar to remain in the bloodstream instead of being burned for energy. This inefficiency contributes directly to insulin resistance. The body senses that glucose is not being used effectively and compensates by releasing more insulin. Over time, this worsens insulin resistance and places additional stress on the pancreas. Many diabetics experience this cycle without realizing that a nutrient deficiency is contributing to the problem. Fatigue is one of the most common symptoms of low vitamin B12. Many diabetics feel constantly tired, mentally foggy, or physically weak, even when their blood sugar numbers appear acceptable. This fatigue is often a sign of impaired cellular energy metabolism. When energy production is compromised, glucose regulation becomes more unstable throughout the day. Vitamin B12 is also essential for red blood cell production and oxygen delivery. Without adequate oxygen reaching tissues, muscles cannot use glucose efficiently. This further worsens insulin sensitivity and contributes to inconsistent energy levels and blood sugar swings. Vitamin B12 deficiency is extremely common in people with diabetes, especially those taking metformin. Metformin interferes with B12 absorption in the digestive tract, leading to gradual depletion over time. Because this process is slow, many people remain unaware of the deficiency until symptoms become more pronounced. Low B12 levels are strongly linked to nerve damage, a common complication of diabetes. Symptoms such as tingling, numbness, burning sensations, or reduced sensation in the feet and hands are often worsened by B12 deficiency. Nerve damage disrupts communication between the nervous system and muscles, which can further impair glucose uptake and worsen insulin resistance. Vitamin B12 also helps regulate homocysteine, an amino acid associated with cardiovascular risk. Elevated homocysteine levels are common in diabetics and are linked to inflammation, poor circulation, and insulin resistance. Adequate B12 helps lower homocysteine, supporting better blood flow and metabolic function. Studies show that restoring proper B12 levels can improve nerve function, reduce fatigue, and support more stable blood sugar regulation. While B12 alone does not reverse diabetes, correcting a deficiency removes a major obstacle that prevents insulin from working efficiently. For diabetics, maintaining adequate B12 levels supports energy production, nerve health, insulin responsiveness, and overall metabolic stability. This makes vitamin B12 a critical part of any strategy aimed at reversing insulin resistance and reducing long-term complications. In the next section, we'll cover the third and final vitamin, which plays a powerful role in reducing oxidative stress, strengthening insulin signaling, and supporting long-term blood sugar stability. The third vitamin that plays a major role in insulin resistance is vitamin C. While vitamin C is often thought of as an immune support nutrient, its most important function for diabetics is protecting the body from oxidative stress, a key driver of insulin resistance and long-term complications. Oxidative stress occurs when excess glucose in the bloodstream generates free radicals. These unstable molecules damage cells, interfere with insulin signaling, and accelerate tissue breakdown. In people with diabetes, oxidative stress is consistently elevated, especially after meals when blood sugar rises sharply. When oxidative stress damages insulin receptors, insulin signal becomes weaker. Glucose has a harder time entering cells, even when insulin levels are high. Over time, this contributes to worsening insulin resistance and higher fasting and post-meal blood sugar levels. Vitamin C acts as a powerful antioxidant, meaning it neutralizes free radicals before they can damage cells. By reducing oxidative stress, vitamin C helps protect insulin receptors and preserve the signaling pathways insulin depends on. This allows insulin to function more efficiently and improves glucose uptake at the cellular level. Another important role of vitamin C is supporting vascular health. Healthy blood vessels are essential for delivering glucose and insulin to muscles and tissues. When blood vessels are damaged by oxidative stress, glucose clearance becomes less efficient. Vitamin C helps protect the lining of blood vessels and supports better circulation, which indirectly improves blood sugar control. Vitamin C also plays a role in reducing inflammation. Chronic inflammation interferes with insulin signaling and worsens insulin resistance. By lowering inflammatory stress, vitamin C helps create a metabolic environment where insulin can work more effectively. One unique issue for diabetics is that vitamin C competes with glucose for entry into cells. When blood sugar levels are high, glucose crowds out vitamin C, leading to functional vitamin C deficiency inside the cell, even if intake appears adequate. This creates a vicious cycle where oxidative stress increases as vitamin C availability decreases. Low intracellular vitamin C worsens insulin resistance, increases inflammation, and accelerates tissue damage. This is one reason diabetics often require higher vitamin C intake than non-diabetics to maintain normal cellular function. Vitamin C also supports adrenal health and stress hormone regulation. Chronically elevated cortisol increases glucose production by the liver and worsens insulin resistance. Adequate vitamin C helps regulate cortisol output, supporting more stable blood sugar levels throughout the day. Research shows that sufficient vitamin C intake is associated with lower fasting blood sugar, reduced post-meal spikes, and improved insulin sensitivity. Some studies show modest improvements in HbA1c when vitamin C supplementation is combined with diet and lifestyle changes. Vitamin C deficiency is more common in diabetics due to increased oxidative stress, higher urinary losses, and reduced cellular uptake. Over time, this deficiency contributes to vascular damage, nerve stress, and worsening metabolic control. When vitamin C levels are restored, cells become more resilient to glucose-related damage. Insulin signaling improves, oxidative stress decreases, and blood sugar regulation becomes more stable. While vitamin C alone does not reverse diabetes, it plays a critical protective role. Together with vitamin D, which improves insulin signaling, and vitamin B12, which supports nerve communication and energy metabolism, vitamin C completes a foundation that supports insulin sensitivity, cellular protection, and long-term metabolic stability in diabetics. Insulin resistance doesn't develop overnight, and it doesn't improve from cutting sugar alone. It's driven by what's happening inside your cells, how insulin signals, how glucose is used for energy, and how much damage builds up over time. That's why vitamins matter more than most people realize. Vitamin D helps insulin communicate with your cells. Vitamin B12 supports nerve signaling and cellular energy so glucose can actually be used. And vitamin C protects insulin receptors from oxidative damage that slowly worsens resistance. Together, these vitamins address the underlying stress that keeps blood sugar unstable. This doesn't mean supplements replace medication or lifestyle changes. It means that without correcting deficiencies, insulin struggles to work properly no matter what else you do. Supporting these pathways gives your body a better chance to respond to insulin and maintain steadier blood sugar. Always talk to your doctor before making changes, especially if you take medications. Start gradually, stay consistent, and focus on long-term stability rather than quick fixes. Improving insulin resistance is about supporting the system, not forcing it.